It's showtime. That's right. It is 4:30 Eastern time on Thursday. It is the last Thursday of the month of April, and you know what that means. It's draft day time, and we're here at Ourlads on the Ourlads Football Network to get you ready. This is our pregame show. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, and before we get started, oh yeah, if you haven't bought one of these yet, you still have time. You might be saying, well, how do I have time? You're not going to be able to get this guide mailed to you before the draft in a few hours. Well, that's why you can order the PDF version. Not too late. Check it out. Of course, if you're here on the channel, you can just go to ourlads.com. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and show you how you can get there. All right. So this is the Ourlads website. Buy draft guide. There's your new orders. Real simple. And look at this. Look how busy we've done. How busy we've become. A limited supply left. All right. And here, we would suggest that you order the PDF version. Okay. And you can read it on your own computer. So there you go. And it goes over everything else that you need to know about ordering the draft guide at ourlads.com. So that's how busy things have been. We're really proud of that. It's the best guide in the industry. So again, if you would like the hard copy, we can get it to you eventually. But as far as the PDF version, you can get that right this second. So this way, whenever now look, it's only the first round. So the PDF version will really come in handy when the entire draft is done. And speaking of the entire draft being done, we are going to have a draft recap. We're going to have actually an instant reaction to the draft. Hayden Russell is going to join me on Sunday afternoon at 2 Eastern. So we're going to take a look at the entire draft, the biggest stories, key trades, who we thought did pretty good as an instant reaction. Obviously, we're not going to have a lot of time to do extensive research, but then give our scouts like John Cooper and Dave Syvertson a little bit of time. And then within the next week or so after that, we're going to bring them on to the channel. I'm sure they're going to have their own words that they're going to share with you through the Ourlads newsletter, as well as the website. But we're going to get them on video, interview them, and get their feelings as far as every team, all 32 teams, and how they felt about the draft. So a lot to take place here over the next several weeks, even when the draft is over. And we have a load of personnel that will be here making making this as much as an easy process as possible for you guys that are looking for the best possible draft analysis as you can get. Okay. So also, let's go ahead, and there's a few things I want to do here since we have a few hours. First of all, if you have seen, we've got Ourlads 4.0 mock draft. Just did that latest version. That's the John Cooper, Dave Syvertson scout version, which means that's the smart version. There's been 4 of those. The latest we just did a few days ago. And now we have my version, the last version. And my version comes not from the scout point of view, of course, but from the point of view of the countless interviews that I've done with our Ourlads insiders. So I feel pretty good about some of the information I've been getting from these guys. And that's why I'm going to go ahead and share my mock draft with you today. And we're going to go quickly through the first round and give you a whole bunch of information regarding that. Also, a little bit later on, I'm going to give you my top value plays of the draft. And we're going to do 2 specific value plays. One is going to be players that, if you look at the Ourlads draft guide, you'll see that for every position, Ourlads ranks the players based on where they believe. Basically, there's a rating system. And then what they're going to do is they're going to say also, well, such and such player we believe will go from rounds 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6. So I'm only going to stick with players that the Ourlads draft guide has from grades 3 to 4, rounds 3 to 4. All right. Or 5, 6, 7. Okay. So those are the ones I'm going to stick with. And I'm going to go over that a little bit later on. And some players that are maybe even expected to be just college free agent signings. And there might even be a player or two that's not even in the guide. So that's coming up a little bit later on as far as a couple of and the other value play is then I'm just going to take a look at some of the players that are going in the first couple of rounds. And, which is the guys that I've been really high on in this whole draft process. And I think could have really good careers in the NFL. We're also going to take a look at the latest on X, on Twitter, see what's in the news as we get closer to the first round, because that'll be the last thing we do on this report. So that'll get us even closer. And who knows, maybe as I'm going through a mock draft, there'll already be a trade, and my mock draft will be out the window, as most of ours will be after the first hour or two. Let's go ahead. Oh, and I'm also going to take a look at some odds from DraftKings. I'm going to take a look at, because I've actually placed a couple of bets. I did that a couple of days ago. Never placed a bet on draft before. I did that. So we're going to take a look at the odds and maybe even take a look at some possible good bargains that you might want to take a look at. Now, some sports books might already shut that down, depending on exactly what the props are, especially the ones for the top couple of picks. Because at this time, if you're really glued in, you might be able to find out that, hey, we know Cam Ward's going 1, but then it's like, yeah, you kind of know now that Hunter's going 2 or Carter's going 3. And so they might start saying at this point, those bets are off. But for the most part, there's still some good bets to take advantage of. Okay, let's do a mock. And hopefully I can get this done properly, because I haven't done this very often. Pro Football Focus does a great job of the mock draft simulator. Dave Syvertson and I did our mock draft about a month ago when we used this, but it's been a while since I used it. Okay. Matter of fact, I don't even know if I think I used it. Yeah. All right. So anyway, here are the Titans, and let's see. All right. Do I have to enter the draft here? You love the live stuff, don't you? What is this? Oh, all? Okay. There you go. All right. Let's enter the draft. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, let's start the draft. Why don't we? All right. So there you go. So Cam Ward to Tennessee. That's easy. Okay. The Browns are on the clock. This is also easy. We all know Travis Hunter is going to the Browns. This is also easy. We know Abdul Carter is going to the Giants. And we knew Abdul Carter was going to the Giants about a month ago when we spoke to Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post. And he gave us his analysis. It wasn't a guarantee, but he seemed pretty confident about that. He sure changed my mind. And that has definitely been the case for most draft nicks putting their mocks together. Abdul Carter seems like a really good fit. Okay, now, this is where I'm going to defer a little bit. And I know our scouts, Dave and John, have a little bit of a difference of opinion with the Patriots, thinking they might go with Genty. Maybe even, who knows? I remember we thought early on Ted McMillan would be a great pick for the Patriots. Give Drake May a weapon. But Will Campbell just seems like the way to go, because of the fact that the Patriots offensive line is just so bad. I just have a hard time believing that they would, with a young quarterback, that they would put him in a situation where he's going to have to run for his life. So look, Stevenson's a fine back. You can go into the later rounds of the draft and get another good running back. I don't think you have to pick that guy at 4, my opinion. And as far as wide receiver, the Patriots have probably had such a bad... I look at it 2 ways with the wide receiver. They've had such bad luck with first-round wide receivers that in one respect, we'll just get Ted McMillan. This way, that stigma's all gone. But they might say to themselves, no, it doesn't matter who it is. If we pick him, he'll be no good. So we'll just wait until maybe the later rounds to get a guy. So I could see that being the case. Anyway, also keep in mind who their head coach is. And I think he cares more about the trenches. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and stick with Will Campbell. Okay, so now you have Jacksonville. And now here's where things get interesting. Okay, so for me, it's going to be Ted McMillan. And I know that Membu is a definite possibility with the Jags too. And I completely understand why that could be the case. If you look at someone like McMillan, you can see a guy You look at someone like Membu, a very good tackle, and the Jags can use a little bit, more. They could use a little bit more talent up front, no question about it. I mean, you could say, especially with the kid Walker Little, because Walker Little is a solid tackle. I still kind of call him a prospect because he hasn't really been like the man at tackle yet. But we don't know what Jacksonville thinks. That's the question. We don't know. Do they really feel Little can be the guy? And do they believe that Little, as well as, let me make sure, because I want to pop up the depth chart as well and have it handy whenever I need it. That's what you love about the Ourlads depth charts. You can just check them out whenever you're stumped. And so here, Anton Harrison, our first round draft pick, he has shown enough that that's the guy. I know it's not the same regime, but look, they got talent. He's the guy, no problem. But do they believe in Walker Little? We don't know, because they might say Walker Little is just, you know what? He's a swing tackle. That's all he's ever going to be. We got to bring in Membu, and that's our guy. I can completely understand that. So I'm just going to go with Tet, because Cohen, just look at where he's been. He's been with the Rams. He's been, especially in the last stop with Tampa Bay. And what did they have? Well, how did they succeed? Well, they succeeded with two weapons. They succeeded with Evans and Godwin. And that was how he got his job with Jacksonville. And he's an offensive guy. And he really does like to throw the football. So in that respect, he looks at this Jacksonville team, and he's got an exciting receiver here in Brian Thomas. You don't know what you have in De'Ami Brown. He hasn't really stepped up yet. Parker Washington is just a player. And look at this. There's nothing else here. So Christian Kirk's gone. You've got to put another top receiver here. Now, they might still be able to get someone in the second round. What if Luther Burden lasts till round 2, which is possible? I don't even think I have him in my mock in the first round. Well, he'd be perfect in Jacksonville. He'll fit in the slot beautifully. You can use this pick in a variety of different ways. Matter of fact, I think you could also still look for Graham on the inside. But I would still stick with an offensive lineman if I don't go wide receiver, but I'm going to go with Tet McMillan. All right. Now the Raiders. Now, this is interesting because this has kind of gone in a number of different ways. The Genti news is making a lot of, and I do want, and look, you look at the Raiders backfield and it's obvious that they have to upgrade at the running back position. We know that. And Ashton Genti would be a really good fit for this organization. Look, Mostert, he's only got another year or two left. McCormick, we still don't know what we got in this kid from Texas San Antonio. And Zamir White may be able to get back to where he was as a prospect in 2023 at the end of the season. And if they feel that's the case, then it's better that you use that pick on a running back a little bit later on, because White could still end up being a number one type guy. And if you think you've got that guy, no, look, is Zamir White Ashton Genti? No. But that's the reason why I'm going to take, once again, I'm going to go offensive line here, and I'm going to go with the fast riser, Armand Membu. All right. This kid has just been flying up the draft boards, and he is actually, just keep this in mind, he is Ourlads' number 1 rated offensive tackle. And that's how much Ourlads believes in Membu. And that is definitely a really good reason, as far as I'm concerned, to take Membu for Las Vegas as their number 1 pick. Now, Sanders is also another possibility. And I completely understand that because all the talk about the Raiders needing a quarterback. But I think that ship has sailed quite a long time ago. So I don't think that's going to come into play at all, especially, of course, after Geno Smith became the man. He's definitely going to be – they didn't just bring him in there to go ahead and go out there and get another young quarterback. And by the way, you can just go ahead and grab one. There's a bunch of interesting guys that you can end up taking a look at a little bit later on. And that's what I definitely think the Raiders are going to do. But again, do you go with Genti Do you take a look at the offensive line? There's some people who think that if Ted McMillan is available, that the Raiders can go there as well. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that Membu would be a perfect addition to the Raiders. And again, if you take a look here at the offensive line, look, you can do a lot better than Calais. Membu, Colton Miller has had himself a nice underrated career. You put Colton Miller on one side, and by the way, just look at Colton Miller now is, it's starting to get up there in age, but he's still in the prime of his career. But you can really upgrade here. And the rest of the offensive line is not bad. You used your second-round pick last year on Powers Johnson, so you hope that he's got a nice little career ahead of him. There's a couple other guys you have at guard, a couple of the players that are okay. Mumford could play inside as well. But you put Membu on that line, and it completely changes everything for the Raiders. And I think that is exactly what the Raiders are going to do. Let me go ahead and grab something else here. Okay. Now, I got so much paperwork from so many different things that we have done here in the last few weeks. It's incredible. My Jets. That's right. My Jets. It's been a long road. The draft is usually when we get the most excited as fans, which is pretty weak, by the way. Rams radar with Payo time. Yes, happy draft day. Speaking of the Rams, Jake Ellenbogen has done a great job as a Ram insider. We've had him here on the channel, on the network a couple of times over the last few years. He does a tremendous job. So I'm sure you know who Jake is. If you're a Rams guy and you're associated with this channel, that's for sure. And the Rams are definitely one of those teams that has Super Bowl aspirations. They've got, in my opinion, the best general manager in the NFL and maybe the best general manager in sports. Okay, so the Jets are up now, and I think it's simple. The Jets are going to come down to 3 players to choose from, but if Membu's off the board, well, that's 1. Then it comes down to 2, and that is going to be, and of course, if Campbell's off the board, let's say the top 2 tackles are gone. If the top 2 tackles are not gone, I think it's an easy decision in my mind, but okay, they're gone. So that leaves Tyler Warren, and it also leaves Mason Graham. And this is going to be a really, really tough decision. Now, I'm going with Graham, but boy, Tyler Warren, I think to me, it's like 50-50, 51-49 at this point, if this is the way it goes down to. Because if you're a Jet fan like me, and you take a look at the situation that they have up front, you know perfectly well, Aaron Glenn, of course, being a defensive guy, is just salivating with the fact that if Graham is available, and by the way, I didn't mention Graham with the Raiders, but Graham is definitely another. The reason I don't think, the Raiders would go that route is not because he couldn't be a great addition. It's just that they have other needs. That's like what I said. I think if you flip the Jets and the Raiders, Jets take Membu and maybe the Raiders take Graham because both situations would be the same. They have Wilkins. The Jets have Quinn and Williams. Just imagine the 2 of them together. For the Jets situation, just imagine if you have McDonald and Johnson on the edges, Quinn and Williams and Graham on the interior. Jets fans will be having these flashbacks to the sack exchange. And then you say, well, wait a second. We got Quinn and Williams and Sherwood at linebacker and Sauce Gardner as a shutdown. Our defense looks pretty damn good. So that, and you got a defensive coach too. So that's the reason why I think it's going to be a tough decision for the Jets. But obviously, if you also got to take a look at, look, they weren't there last year, the Jets regime. So it's a completely different one. But you do have to wonder, like if they pass on Warren and Warren has the Bowers type of season, you're going to be saying to yourself, well, we passed on Bowers and look at him. I mean, we passed on Warren or look at him. I get that. And the Jets definitely are going to need another receiver or a tight end because you can't go into the regular season with just Garrett Wilson. And that's what they are. Josh Reynolds doesn't mean anything. Alan Lazard doesn't mean anything. The question we have, though, is what kind of confidence does the new staff have in Jeremy Ruckert? He's a third-round guy, a tight end I like. He just hasn't yet blossomed yet or hit his ceiling yet. And what is that ceiling? I don't know. So that is, and look, I think no matter what, they're going to draft a tight end. The Jets might just be in the situation where they go, it's such a deep class of tight end, not as deep at all, a tackle. Or, of course, defensive tackle, you also have one of the deepest positions in the draft. So this is a real bonus for the Jets. They're going to say to themselves, well, we need another tight end and we need another defensive tackle. it's the two best positions of this class, of this entire draft class, strength-wise. So we're going to get one of them later and one of them now. Again, unless Membu's there, in my opinion, I think it can go either way. Like I said, I'm not, if as a Jet fan, not going to be upset in the least if it goes to Warren instead of to Graham. I just think it makes an interesting situation for Aaron Glenn as a defensive guy to come in and just salivate at the opportunity of a Graham, Williams, McDonald, and Johnson front. Okay, let's now move on. Let's go ahead and make the pick so we can move on. And there we go. Okay, Carolina. A lot of people believe Carolina is desperately trying to trade down. And I know there's a lot of talk. Look, if Ashton Jeanty is still available, there's a lot of talk about the Bears want Ashton Jeanty, and I believe they do. But if I'm the Bears, I got to be honest. I mean, if you really want a running back that bad, a number one difference-making running back, and you miss out on the chance to get Jeanty, especially depending on what it's going to cost you, then let it. I'll just take the other guy. I mean, Jeanty is a very good running back. He is maybe even a generational type of running back that we understand that. He's very good. Not many running backs can get drafted in the top 5 or the top 10 of the draft and warrant that. But when you get the opportunity to also say to yourself, well, that's going to be the case. Look, go ahead and draft Jeanty if I have to give up a high pick. And by the way, the Panthers have a lot of personnel issues, and most of them are on defense. Not the Panthers, the Bears. The Bears still have personnel issues. Carolina has more, which is why Carolina wants more draft picks. But the Bears also still have plenty of issues that they have to address. And I just think that if running back is that important to them, I just don't understand why they would just give up a premium second-round pick, which is probably what it's going to take, when you can just go ahead and take Hampton if you wanted to. So, look, we'll see. I know every general manager is different. Some will probably make a trade up in the first round, but I'm going to tell you right now, I think this draft in the first round could end up as the least amount of trades that we have ever seen. I think it should rank up there, because I'm not saying it will end up as the least, but it should rank up there because the talent level, once you get past the first 3 players, 3, and really it's only 2 because Ward should never really be considered a top 10 guy, but he's a quarterback and he's going to go there. But once you get past Hunter and Carter, top 2, you can go from, let's say, just the draft wise, after the 3rd pick, the 4th pick, to like the 25th pick. And I'm sorry, I don't see a whole lot of difference between the talent. I think players that you are going to find out that are drafted at the end of today, 20, 21, 23, so there are going to be 2 or 3 of those guys that could easily have the first top 10, maybe even with the 4th or 5th pick. So I don't understand why general managers would trade up in this draft. I think it's ridiculous. And I think if they do, it would probably be someone like Pace from the Bears, because he shouldn't even be there. And he's the type of guy that should have been fired at least a year ago. That's just my opinion, not an Ourlads opinion. That's just me. But I think he has not done justice for the Bears organization at this point. I think there's been a lot of blame to go around there. There's no question about it. I think he's been very fortunate to just get another chance. And maybe he just needed the right partner. And maybe the hiring of Ben Johnson will be just what he needs to turn his general manager career around. But if he trades up, I think that's a bad sign if I'm a Bears fan. Not that they're going to care, because if they can get Ashton Jeanty, they're going to have a party. All right, so with Carolina, again, this is going to be really tough because if you look at the different possibilities, they can go wide receiver, they could go corner, they could also potentially go tight end. They really could. You know, they got the kid from Texas last year, but we still don't know, much about him. But I'm going to go with, let's move down here, and I'm going to go ahead and show you who I'm going to take. Wow. Where is he? That just shows you the difference between Pro Football Focus and Ourlads. I'm going with Shamar Stewart. So Shamar Stewart is Ourlads' second best edge rusher, as well he should be. The kid is just amazingly athletic. He's got just these elite, freakish athletic skills, a huge upside. It's going to take him a little time, but the upside is there. He's got tremendous upside. And Carolina is going to be a patient organization right now. They're going to slowly try to build with as much talent as possible. They don't need instant impact guys right now. They need guys that they say to themselves, well, maybe another two of these other edge rushers might just be better now. But this is the guy that could be a monster in 2 or 3 years. And that's Shamar Stewart. And that's why I'm going to go there. But look, Carolina, we all know they need defense. I think Carolina fans would have a heart attack if they didn't go offense, especially at wide receiver. They can do that later on. And it's probably going to be an edge rusher. And I think it could be any number of edge rushers, but I'm just going to go with Stewart and follow. Not that I'm doing it because it's on necessarily the second guy in rated by Ourlads in the draft guide, because as you'll see as I go on, I'm not doing that. It's just that this is the type of player he is, and I think it makes a lot of sense. New Orleans is next. And here's another one. I'm going to go a little bit off the board here. Many people believe that this is where Shedeur Sanders is going to go. I think if you're paying attention to Ourlads by now, you know what we think about with Sanders and what kind of a talent he is. And I completely agree with it. Just like we completely agreed last year who the best quarterback really was in the draft, and it all played out. In this situation, look, Shedeur Sanders, I have a feeling it's that a more than 50% chance that he is going to slide like Aaron Rodgers in the draft. He may slide even that far. Now, I think I eventually have him going to Pittsburgh, but he is really, I can't see him at 9. I just can't. Everybody looks and sees that Carr's not there, and well, you can't possibly just go into let's take a look, because they got the 2 young quarterbacks, and I think when you take a look at the Saints, they're an organization right now that needs to kind of rebuild, because things have just not worked out, and they kind of have to start fresh. And I do believe that Spencer Rattler, I actually like Jake Haener, but I just don't think he's going to make it as a starter. But Spencer Rattler has some ability as a potential starting quarterback in the NFL. I think one of the things that the big knock against him is his downfield passing ability. But overall, he actually did pretty good as a rookie, and I think that showed me something. And I loved what he did at South Carolina. I mean, it was amazing how that team, Beamer, what a great job he did changing the culture there. And Rattler was a big part of it. Now, it's not like South Carolina became, Alabama, but over the last couple of years, they have surprised a lot of people. They've got an incredibly young, gifted quarterback that we're going to be keeping a big eye on this season, and the next couple of seasons. I mean, some of the draft picks that are coming out from that team this year, Emmett Warry's a big one. Knight, Ourlads' top-rated linebacker. So that team has really changed, and Rattler was a big part of that. And so, and with Carr potentially still available in 2026, why not let Spencer Rattler, why not give him the opportunity to be the starter this year? If you want to take another quarterback, go ahead and take one in the middle rounds. And we're going to go over some of those bargains I just talked about, the sleepers, the value guys, and there's a bunch of them. Take another guy in the middle rounds, go with Rattler, and use the 9th pick on a really premium starting caliber player. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I am going to take Will Johnson from Michigan. As you can see there, I'm a Michigan guy. And I pride myself on having a pretty good eye when it comes to my own players, because I have watched Will Johnson every single game of his Michigan career. Same thing with any players that I look at Rutgers, and same thing with any of my teams. I pride myself in saying, yeah, I don't know, he's not going to be a good pro, or this guy is going to be really good. And that's what I believe about Will Johnson. Now, there's some knock on him with the injury situation, and I completely get that. But Will Johnson is a day one lockdown. He's like a Sauce Gardner. You're going to put him out there, and as long as he's healthy, he's going to be an all-pro day one. That's how talented Will Johnson is. Okay, there's nothing else to it. I don't need to read even some of the profiles myself and see, because every player has issues, and I don't need to read Will Johnson's issues. I know what they are. I've seen them even in the Ourlads guide, and they're 100% accurate. But I don't need to see them, because every superstar player that's coming into the league have issues. Okay, he's got to work on this. He's got to work on that. Will Johnson is a superstar, and the only thing that's going to hold him back is the injury situation. That's it. And if you're the New Orleans Saints, you have a major hole at corner. You take Will Johnson, and they're going to be really, really happy. All right. So again, based on my mock, this is what I said. Why trade up? I don't think you have to. Okay. Bears get Genty at 10. Now, could Genty go as early as 4, 5, 6? Even there's even talk of Jacksonville taking Genty, which I think is ludicrous. I mean, how many running backs do you possibly need? But look, if the Bears sit at 10, there is a very good chance in my mind that Genty could be there. And like I said, if he's not, 2 running backs are not getting drafted in the top 10. All right. So just go ahead and take Hampton if you're really that desperate for running back. Next up, San Francisco. And with the San Francisco 49ers, this is actually a player that is right here. A player that we've really pinned here with San Francisco for a little bit. That's Nolan. Nolan is just a grade A, Pro Bowl caliber defensive tackle. And I even believe from day one, he's that good. And, he's a smart kid. Just a powerful, well-sized playmaker at that level. Elite ability. He's the full package. And San Francisco's defensive line right now is not good at all. And we talked also, Dave Syverson made a great point when I was talking to him about picking an offensive tackle. They don't pick offensive linemen under the Shanahan system because they don't need to. It's just the way the system is. You don't need to pick those types of guys. It's a system line. Okay, it's a system line. So you pick guys that you just know will fit in the system better, and those guys can be picked in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round on offensive line. But San Francisco, Walter Nolan, no matter what, the Niners have to add up front. They just have to add up front. Okay, next up, the Dallas Cowboys. And remember like a few months ago when everybody and their sister had Genty going to the Cowboys. Well, the Cowboys needed a running back, and Genty is going to go to the Cowboys because most people didn't really think that Genty was going to be that hot of a name like he is right now. Well, the Dallas Cowboys, in the meanwhile, actually made a couple of moves at running back. They didn't make a lot of moves. Matter of fact, if you look at it here on the depth chart, they did make a move for Dante Fowler as a potential starter, but Dante Fowler, he's on a new team every year. But at running back, they added not 1, but 2 starting caliber running backs. That's good. That's a good point. That's a good side. The bad side is I'm not sure either one of them should be the answer. The Cowboys still need to draft a running back that has the possibility of getting first team reps week 1, because we don't know if Javonte Williams is going to all of a sudden, I'm now with the new team. I'm going to be the guy that the Broncos thought I was. And Miles Sanders was terrible at Carolina. He had the breakout year with the Eagles. He got the new contract. Nothing. Dud with Carolina. So on paper, it looks like it's interesting, but you have to add another running back. Now, if Genty's there, and you know what? I could see Jerry Jones doing something silly like trading up for a guy like Genty. He's a guy that could do that too. But the Cowboys really should look at the situation and decide that I'm going to go ahead and use a running back, use the pick a little bit later on. Now, again, Hampton could be in play, no doubt about that. But also, I think there are a lot of people looking at edge, and they're also looking at corner. Matter of fact, if you look here on defense, and the Cowboys need some more guys on defense, this is a really good spot for Jahdae Barron. And I came really close to picking Barron for the Cowboys. I didn't do it, but I really thought that was a possibility that I would go that route. But I decided instead, even though there were a few options out there that I think could go really well, overall, where is my, it's over here. Overall, I decided, there we go. There's Barron right there, but I decided no. Let's keep going. Still no. Yep, there he is. Another player I was looking at was Golden. I know a lot of mock drafts have Golden going to the Cowboys. Here's my question with Golden going to the Cowboys. Okay. They made the trade for Mingo last year. They didn't make the trade as just, let's just make a trade. I believe they give up a 4th-round pick for Mingo. You give up a middle-round pick for a player, well, you actually think that guy is going to contribute. They have a star. They have a superstar. You have a guy that you feel confident is going to live up to his potential. And you also have another guy who just keeps slowly getting better every year. And you have some other young guys. So the question then is, why do you need another first-round wide receiver? I would only think that would be the case if you really don't have a lot of confidence with these two guys. But again, why would you give up a 4th-round pick for Mingo unless you really like them? So could it happen? Absolutely. I mean, Golden is a phenomenal speed player, downfield threat. Lamb is a guy that, likes to work a lot more underneath and is effective in that role. Look, Lamb could do everything. But you put Golden there, and it really opens up the defense tremendously. And I could see that happening too. But I'm just going with Banks. And I'm going with Banks because Banks could still end up as the top offensive lineman when it's all said and done in this draft. Matter of fact, he was considered the top offensive lineman for a while. And then all of a sudden, things started happening, and this guy went ahead of him and that guy went ahead of him. But he's still considered, Ourlads still considers him a very talented player. And he is a legitimate starting caliber Pro Bowl type guard or tackle. That's the other thing about Banks. He can play both positions. And if you look here at the Cowboys, they have a big hole at right tackle. Steele should not be starting. Okay. And also, let's remember, look, Cowboys, they like to draft first-round guys. There's another guy that they just got rid of last year, another first-round guy. They like this is what Jones likes to do, and I commend him for that. You should be spending first-round picks on offensive linemen. Remember, just a couple of years ago, the Cowboys for like 10 years had the best offensive line in the game. So this is what's missing for the Cowboys. See, this is fine right here, but this right side is a big problem. It's a big question. You must add somebody on this side of the line, a top player. You can get another wide receiver in the 2nd round. Again, you've got other talented guys here, but you can't get a Kevin Banks in round 2. So that's why I'm going to go with Banks as the pick. Okay. The Dolphins. Now, I went with a player that is really talented, but is going through some, wow, what have they done here? You got to be kidding me. I'm sorry, Pro Football Focus. You got no idea what you're doing. So we're going to go with Harmon here. And Miami's like San Francisco. Miami desperately needs front defensive linemen. They have big holes up front on the defensive line. Okay. You cannot think, look at this. They don't have anybody back here. And I don't even look, Neil Farrell. I mean, that's just a body. Benito Jones is just a body. He's just a rotational guy. Matt Dickerson. I mean, come on. Zach Seiler is a underrated, really good player, but that's all they have. They've got nothing else. How do you not spend maybe even 2 premium picks up front if you're the Dolphins? I mean, you've got to go that route, don't you? Now, yes, do they need some help back here? Absolutely. But look, this is a kid that's just gotten by over the last few years, and maybe the Dolphins feel they could keep getting by, but Barron could be the pick here, because Barron can play outside or in. Probably we get to stick it in. And Storm Duck got some more reps last year. He was a college free agent, a very nice little signing, but are they really going to hand the keys over to him without any competition? So they desperately need one impact corner, no doubt. Barron could be the pick. And then you go here to the offense. And I know there's some offensive line possibilities. I completely agree with that. They used a second-round pick on Paul, so he has to get a shot. Jackson has not lived up to his first-round billing. They desperately need a guard. Eichenberg cannot be counted on. So at some point, it's not happening here, but at some point early in the draft, the Dolphins need a guard. Look, I think you can get by with Austin Jackson, but if you add a right tackle or maybe even a Banks, a Banks, if he's available, is also a really possibly a good fit here for Miami. And then people talk about the receiver unit, and this all depends. We don't know what they're doing with Tyreek Hill. I can't guess that he's going to be traded. It does look like that's the case, that he will either be traded or cut after June 1st. I get that, but I'm not going to guess that. And let's just say he's gone. Okay. Well, I think they really like Malik Washington as a slot guy, but that doesn't mean that this role here shouldn't be upgraded. I mean, this is just an okay player. He's a little bit better than just a body. He had a nice little, breakout last year with underwhelming quarterback play. So maybe there's a little bit more there with better quarterback play. But the problem is with the Dolphins and receiver, they don't have nothing else. I mean, they just have, they're really in need of at least one more impact receiver. Again, Golden could be a really good fit here for the Dolphins, and I completely get that. And I also think Tyler Warren could go here. We haven't even talked about the tight end since we talked with the Jets. So look, Jonnu Smith, what would be a really good combo would be Jonnu Smith and Warren, because Jonnu really is more of a guy that fits perfectly in the slot. Warren could do both. And nowadays, teams are going that route. Look at the Raiders; it worked for them. So you can have two talented tight ends. One that could work in the slot, the other guy works in line. But that's why I can't see Colson Loveland with the Dolphins, because that would not make any sense. And by the way, on the Warren and Loveland battle, who's better? Honestly, I think that's just nonsense. I'd be shocked. And I'm a Michigan fan. I'd be shocked if Colston Loveland is seriously being considered by 50% of the teams out there as the first tight end in this class. Because as good as a prospect he is, and he's a fantastic prospect, Tyler Warren can do both. He could block and he can sit in a slot and make the type of plays Loveland can make. And he can also do more than that. Loveland isn't necessarily the type of receiver that is going to do more than he's like a receiver in a tight end's body. That's what Loveland is. And that's why he's really looked at as a top tight end prospect, because he's got the frame of a tight end and the polish of a receiver. But Warren is like a running back / wide receiver / tight end / quarterback in a body. He is a special player, sort of like what Hunter is to the wide receiver. Oh, Hunter, he's a transformable player because he's a wide receiver and elite wide receiver and corner. That's what makes Warren so special, because he can go under center. Look, if they don't get rid of that Eagles play, then Warren would be perfect for that. Whoever you get drafted. Oh, they're going to keep that play around. All right. Well, Warren, we'll make him, we'll play rugby with Warren. But anyway, he can do so much. He's such a great player. I think that's nonsensical that Loveland is being considered ahead of him. So could the Dolphins take Warren? I believe that is definitely a possibility. And the other guy I think they could take is Josh Connerly. I think he fits also really well because he also can play tackle and guard. I think Banks has gone off for a mock. So I think Connerly, Banks, either one of them would be a really good fit here with the two, because they can go both inside and out. So look for that. And again, I think the Harmon deal is strictly about, they're talking about maybe there's some red flags, health-wise. You know how many times every year in the draft we get these red flags with these players at the last minute heading up, and it's like 90% of the time it's nonsense and garbage. And we see the players getting drafted where we thought they were going to get drafted. Now, whether that's the case to Harmon or not, I have no idea. All I know is Harmon is not just like Kenneth Grant, who was rated higher at Ourlads than Harmon, but Grant is more of a rotational player at this point in his career. Harmon is a 3-down, elite, talented type of defensive tackle. And I think that's what the Dolphins need. Anyway, I know it's not a popular pick. I'm probably wrong, but I'm just going to go ahead and take a chance there. Okay, now the Colts. How awesome would it be for the Colts to sit here and get Tyler Warren? And wouldn't it be funny, not if you're a Colt fan, that if Warren was still on the board, that they decided to do something else, because they could go edge. They still have some guys that may not be here long term, and they could still go corner. And we have some good corners that are still available here. So that's possible. But wow. Yeah. And this is a spot, by the way, if Warren goes already, and he could go to the Jets at 7. So let's say Warren's off the board and Loveland is still here. To me, I don't think the Colts think twice about, oh, okay. It's sort of like if you want an elite number 1 running back, and you couldn't get Genty, then I'll get Hampton. And if I can't get Warren, then okay, I'll go get Loveland. So as much as I think Warren is a better tight end prospect than Loveland, the Colts need a difference-making tight end. And if they can get one, they should be ecstatic. All right, next up, Atlanta. And I think at this point, everybody knows that Atlanta needs an edge rusher. This is not a surprise. The question then is, which edge rusher will it be? I will say this: if they don't go edge rusher, let's just throw these ideas together. Because if you look at the Falcons up here, where are they? So let's take a look at the Falcons. And you've got London, you've got Mooney. So you have 2 of your 3 impact receivers. Even though Mooney's he's not London caliber, but he's a really good number 2. They can use a 3 because of the personnel groupings they run. They need a 3rd. And McLeod came out of nowhere and really played a lot better than I thought he was going to play last year. But I don't think he's a starter, not a top 3. I think you can live with it if you have to, but I don't think there's any question Atlanta is going to add a receiver at some point in this draft. So if Golden is still available, I think that is a distinct possibility. Just imagine Michael Penix chucking balls downfield to Matthew Golden. I mean, and then you got Drake London and Darryl Mooney out there, and you got Kyle Pitts. I mean, that might be too tempting to pass on, especially even though Atlanta needs an edge rusher. But I'm just throwing it out there. They need defense. That's just the bottom line. But this is also a team that could use Jahdae Barron. Okay, right here. Again, they need an upgrade at nickel. So Barron is definitely in play. I also think Kenneth Grant is in play because they used the 2nd round pick here. Remember, I just said Grant is not really a 3-down guy. And he's really more, I shouldn't say that. He's more of a guy that he's so big that he needs time off. He just can't be a full-time guy. So he needs another talented player to work with to come in and out. And I think that could work really well here with Atlanta. So I think Kenneth Grant could be the pick here, but we know they need edge rushers. Ibikiti has just been okay. They know nothing about Trice yet. Malone hasn't really done much, and Floyd is temporary. So they're going to need, and Ellis, by the way, does a good job on the interior. But anyway, they've got to really add, and I know there's a lot of talk about both Georgia kids, Walker and Williams, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to go Georgia, and let's see where we land. I mean, no, not going with Walker. Wow. Man, these people, they're nuts. Michael Williams is going to the Atlanta Falcons. I believe it's going to be either Williams or Carter. I really do. So that is where I am going to go with Atlanta. All right, next up is Arizona. And speaking of Walker, that's right. Let's not waste any time. We just talked about him, and we're going to go ahead and give Arizona Jalen Walker. And this is one of those deals where I know people are looking at Arizona taking a wide receiver, and Golden's available here. Okay, that would be a nice pickup, absolutely. But again, this goes back to the question I said already about another couple of teams. I mean, how many really good receivers do you need on one team? Honestly, to win a Super Bowl, you need to have at least one elite receiver, and your number two guy just has to be pretty good. It just has to be pretty good. Doesn't have to be a star. It just has to be pretty good. And your number three guy can be okay. That's all you need. Just look at the Eagles. I know they have a couple of guys, but I don't look at the Eagles situation as they have elite, and then I think they have pretty good. You look at here, and I mean, Michael Wilson, they drafted him to be a big part of their offense and part of this, a really big part. He's still a young kid. So you got Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison there. I need another guy. I need three. Look, I'm not saying you don't pick one a little bit later on. I think you should. Maybe even in round two. But I don't know the need to pick a receiver in the first round, especially when you take a look at a team that has issues on defense. And so if we take a look at the defense, look, Walker, I think, is good because he can fill a couple roles. He can play a little linebacker. He obviously is really better as an edge rusher. And I think because he's still a little bit, I wouldn't say raw or inexperienced, but because he hasn't played one spot, and that's it. All right, since you're an edge rusher now, forget your linebacker career. I don't know how any team is going to play him, but I think that's how he should be played. Just zero in on one aspect. The kid has got so much talent. The worst thing you could do is have him be a little bit good there, a little bit good there, and a little bit good there, because that could screw you up, especially a young kid. So just have him rush the passer. And with Arizona, yes, big deal to acquire Sweat. Obviously, that really made sense. They had a great trade to get Baron Browning. I don't look at Collins as not a pass rusher. Okay. So, and Ojulari, look, he just never really took off with the Giants, and that's why he's with Arizona. Now, I like this room. I think it's talented, but I just think that if you have an opportunity to get a guy like Carter, I think that's a really smart move, especially again, I'm just saying you should stick to just, zeroing in on one specific aspect. I know John Cooper, who knows more than I do, said maybe a good idea was stick him at Sam, maybe early on in his career, and go from there. So look, that could be what a defensive coordinator thinks, and maybe that is the best thing for him with whoever, wherever he lands. Is all right, we got an idea of where we're gonna put you, and maybe we can even make a chess piece out of you, or a Swiss Army knife, which I believe is a quote in the Ourlads guide on Jalen Carter. I think that might even be an exact quote on Jalen Walker. Yep, possible Swiss Army knife in the NFL. And that's something, as you can see with this defense, the way Arizona is, I think that'd be something that Arizona could really use. And then the other two players on defense I think they could go for is Kenneth Grant, if he's still available. Again, you've got a nice player in Tomlinson. He's a little older. You bring in Grant. I think that's a perfect rotation set there. Or you can go ahead and just add another corner as well. And that would be Barron, who we still have available. Okay, next up is Cincinnati and the Bengals. Well, look, we know that the offensive line has been an issue for them for a while, but believe it or not, the offensive line may not really be something that they have to take care of early in this draft. I just mentioned him. We've already talked about him quite enough, and I think it's now time to finally give Jahdae Barron a home. So that's what we're going to do here with the Bengals at 17, because they were defensively, they lost their coordinator. And the big reason they lost him is because their secondary was just a disaster. The last couple of years, it really was their downfall. Now, Dax Hill looked good, and then he got hurt. DJ Turner starting to look good, and then he got hurt. Now, you just got to hope Turner and Hill come back. Taylor Britt did not look necessarily good early last year. Then they dumbed down the defense after the bye, and he started looking good. That's I don't think it's a plus that you had to dumb down the defense for him to look good, but at least he played better. And the same thing happened to Geno Stone, by the way. They dumbed things down, and he looked better in the second half. Battle has not necessarily taken off, which is why Malachi Starks, could be another good pick here for Cincinnati. I love Starks. Absolutely love him. I think he's a top 10 talent in this draft. But they don't look at safeties in the NFL like they used to. But I think Starks would be a great addition here as well. But I'll take Barron because the Bengals still don't know who. If you look at the Bengals, you'd say, well, who's their number one corner? I don't know. It could be any of those three. But you draft Barron, someone like that at this spot at corner, well, that guy could eventually, maybe even day one this year, be your number one corner, especially Barron. He's that talented. So that's the way I would go. I would also take a look at Mike Green at edge. Everybody knows that the Bengals have got to get at least one more edge rusher in this draft. They might have to go with two. Problem is, they don't draft edge rushers very often, this regime. They did it a couple years ago, Miles Murphy, and that was an outlier. Are they going to do it 2 and 3 years? So I think, though, that's the reason I'm going to say maybe they go second round edge and decide that taking and fixing that secondary is just way too important right now. And let's do that first. But look, Mike Green would be a really good addition to this team too. I think he's still available on our mock. They could go in a variety of ways at edge rusher. That is something that I think we all know would make sense. Okay, now let's go with Seattle. And Seattle, a couple of different needs here. I think corner is a big need. It's interesting. I just kind of looked a little bit here at some of the needs, and it's funny how on a couple of them, it's like the Seattle, they don't have corner as a need. Okay, well, let's see what the case is with Seattle and why they don't need a corner. Okay, so Pro Football Focus believes they don't need a corner because a college free agent who played pretty well, don't forget, he was an Eagle first, okay, a couple years ago. And then, he didn't really fit with the Eagles. Things didn't just work out. So Seattle gets a hold of him last year on their practice squad, and he does pretty good. I think we got something here. He's working out, different system, different culture, whatever the case may be, even though the Eagles won a Super Bowl. But, the Seattle Seahawks don't need a cornerback? That's not even a need because Josh Jobe is penciled in at outside. What are you, nuts? So I don't know what they're thinking, but yes, Seattle needs a corner. And look, they're in really good shape with the rest of the group. These four guys, they're in good shape here. But the other thing, too, is not just that they need another corner, but when they bring in another corner, the other guy becomes a key fifth guy. And that's also something this team needs. They don't have enough depth at the defensive backfield. So this is a team that definitely needs a corner at some point. I don't know if it's the first round or not, but they need a corner. Amos, Revel, keep an eye on those guys at this point. But and Connerly is also a guy at this point that they could look at, a guy that could go inside out, Banks, someone like that, because we don't know if Lucas' health problems can be counted on. But then what if he can? Well, you need some help at guard. Seattle has to pick up another guard. So maybe if you pick up a Connerly, you could take care of both of those spots. But my pick for Seattle, we've talked about him several times already, is going to be Matthew Golden. Okay, so with Metcalf gone, Seattle definitely needs a stretch of the defense receiver. And if Golden is available, I think Seattle should jump all over him. This is not even, this is nothing right here. So, and there's no good depth here. So they've got two receivers and one of them can't stay healthy. So Seattle definitely needs a wide receiver. No question about it. I think at this point, the way it looks, I don't think there's any doubt that they'll draft a receiver, even if Golden's off the board. I think they have to. Now, look, Burden, because Smith and Jigma is such a good slot guy, there are a couple of guys that will be available, like Buka, Burden, who fit better in the slot. So that wouldn't work. So I guess it is possible that if Golden's gone, they could look for another receiver that could stretch the defense in round 2. That's not considered a number 1 guy. You could see that. But I just think they need a receiver, period, because again, they could use 2. So why not just add another guy, the most talented receiver left on your board in the first round, and then get a speed guy, in the 3rd or 4th round. someone that just is more tailor-made to, he's got one thing that he does well, and that's go deep. And, he's got really good speed and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, Seattle needs a couple of guys, because don't forget, Sam Darnold, he broke out with the Vikings really for one big reason, because he had Justin Jefferson and Addison. He had he had the rare help that most quarterbacks don't get, is that you could look at the Vikings as a team that, Addison on some teams would be a number one. So he had that much talent at receiver to work with. And as good as a prospect as we're now seeing develop in Smith and Jigba. And there was no reason for anybody to think otherwise. He just got off to a slow start. But boy, does Sam Darnold needs more help at receiver, no question. All right. Next up is Tampa Bay. And the Bucs can go, let's see. I have them at inside linebacker, nose tackle, and corner. Even though they have edge here for Tampa Bay. I'm not going to say Tampa Bay can't use some more pass rushers, because they can. But I don't really look at it as a major top of the list need. Reddick is there. Nelson's a nice number 4. Braswell, everybody forgets about Chris Braswell. This is a guy they have high hopes for. And then you have Diaby, who is getting this close to being a really big edge rusher for them. So you've got 4 guys. So could they add another guy, because Reddick is a year-to-year guy? Sure, you can do that. I have no problem with that if they find a guy, but I just don't think that's a primary need. I think they have others, like I mentioned. And so let's talk about some of them based on who's available. I know a lot of people believe Campbell would be a good fit here, and they're absolutely right. Dennis was injured last year, even though the Bucs really like him. The Bucs believe he is going to do just fine when he gets the chance to play full time. David can't play forever, but they did a good job of getting some insurance, with Walker. But can they get a guy to take over now and be that guy next to David and Dennis year one, and then David leaves in a year or two, and now he's the guy? Yeah, Campbell could be that guy. And Campbell's also he can add edge rushing as well and can blitz. And we know Todd Bowles likes to blitz. So Campbell's a really good choice. Okay. I also think Kenneth Grant is a really good choice. Just imagine with Grant getting the opportunity to play alongside Vita Vea. And Tampa Bay can really use another talented defensive lineman. They're just the backups here are just underwhelming. So if they can get another guy, that is something I think they'll look at. But I'm going to go ahead and, boy, I think this would be a great move and pick Malachi Starks. Just imagine you're the Bucs in the secondary, which was a big problem for them last year. And they need some defensive backs. They need either a safety or a corner or both. But the reason why I'm picking Starks is not because I'm just, here's Starks, he's at safety. Because if you look at Christian Ijian from Rutgers, and by the way, he is a shining example of how what a great job Greg Schiano does of coaching kids in college and getting them ready for the pros. He does a tremendous job of that. And Izian is a prime example. So Izian's a fine player, fine starter alongside Antoine Winfield Jr. But don't forget, Antoine Winfield Jr. banged up a little last year. And boy, that secondary hurt when that happened. But if you put a Starks in this secondary, who is a playmaker, this kid has just got production since like day one as a freshman, championship caliber player. He's won a championship with Georgia. You put him and Winfield in the same secondary. Wow. And the other thing about Starks is he can play nickel. So, and Tyke Smith did a nice job at nickel, but I would just look at it as, man, I'm going to draft Starks. I'm going to put him in that room with these other guys, and I'll figure it out. And that's the reason why I just felt at this point, Starks is too good of a player to pass up. And I think he would be a really fantastic addition if he could play alongside Antoine Winfield. So I think that would really be exciting. And then, that goes for Tampa Bay. So next up, Let's go to Denver. Everybody has, at this point, people were thinking eventually, first of all, well, Genty should be the pick. He could last to 20. And then all that stuff got ridiculous after a while. And then, well, now it's Hampton. It's got to be Hampton. And I believe that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm not going to go outside of that because the thing with Hampton that maybe people don't realize is what a really good receiver he is. Now, he doesn't have tremendously high numbers in college, but that's just not the way they ran their offense. But he's got tremendous hands. And this is important because if you take a look at the history of Sean Payton's running backs, his running backs, especially his premium first round guys, they have to get involved in the passing game. Reggie Bush, I mean, you're talking about, matter of fact, he's drafted 2 in the first round. Ingram was the other. And I wrote about this in the guide because I had the Broncos. And Reggie Bush totaled 219 targets during a 2-year span. Alvin Kamara totaled 409 during a 4-year span. Let's see. What this all means is to look out for running back, where Peyton found Bush and Mark Ingram in the first round. And then I gave a bunch of other guys to keep an eye on. So, yeah, it looks like a no-brainer that if Hampton's available. Now, if he's not available, all right, well, we'll take one in second round, third round. And if that happens, then keep an eye on tight end and corner. So Colson Loveland is still available here, and that's probably the way he'll go. I think he's in really good shape. I do not believe, no way, that by a 20th pick in the draft, that the top two tight ends and the top 2 running backs are gone. No, no way do I see that. So he'll get one of them, and he won't have to sweat. The only way he'd have to sweat is if someone decides to jump ahead of him, and there's one of those guys left, a Hampton or Loveland, and Jim Harbaugh decides, well, I don't want you to get him. I'm in the same division. I'm going to jump over you, and I'm going to get that guy because Chargers need the same thing. Chargers need a tight end, and they need a running back. And they're obviously division opponents. So don't be surprised if there is a trade up. I could see the Chargers trying to stick it to the Broncos. Okay. Let's see here. What was next? Pittsburgh. All right, we're finally here. We're finally going to do another quarterback. So let's do it. We're not going to get crazy here. So where do they have the quarterback? At least they're doing this right. Let's see. Where do they have Shador? 45. Okay. So, we all know Pittsburgh needs a quarterback. I think getting him at this point is fine. No problem. Remember what I said at the beginning of the show about how you could take a player that's drafted at 4 or 5 or whatever, and then he could also get drafted 25, 30, and it wouldn't be a big deal difference. Well, this is the perfect player example of that. That Sanders, just a couple of weeks ago, people were saying, well, he's second pick, third pick, fourth pick. I mean, second pick, third pick, or even fifth pick. No, not fifth pick, second and third. So now there's talk about 21st or later. So all of this is true. Sanders can go anywhere. And I think, again, the same situation. I think anybody's crazy to trade up and get Shador Sanders. I think they're nuts. I don't care who it is, at what level, unless it's the second round, unless he doesn't even unless he gets out of the first round entirely and is sitting there overnight, still available. Then I could see a team saying, okay, I'm going to move up, get the first pick in the second round, and I'm taking Sanders. That I could see happening. But I don't think he'll get out of the first round. That's just, I think he's going to go here. But let's just say the Steelers are not sold on Sanders. Then I think that I think there are several different opportunities to look at what they're looking for. One, I think Travion Henderson would be a tremendous pickup. You put him in that backfield, and that would be great for the Steelers. He's a home run guy. I think he's also he's one of my value guys I talked about in the beginning too. Even though he's a later first round guy, maybe not value is the right word, but maybe even underappreciated. The only thing holding Travion Henderson back from being a superstar at the next level is health. He's got everything else you're looking for in a running back. Can he stay healthy? Then you've got Emin Wari. I mentioned him. I think he would be a really good pickup in the secondary for Pittsburgh. But most importantly, they must stop the run. Now, Emmett Worry would be a part of that because he's a heat-seeking missile back in the secondary to help stop the run. But you got to get guys up front. And we've got Grant still available. So if Sanders wasn't the call, I think Grant would be the call at defensive tackle. And if Harmon is still available, which is definitely possible, then I could go ahead and see Harmon too. All right, now here are the Chargers. We just talked about them. Now, as I said, the Chargers need tight end and running back. But even though Loveland is on the board, I am not going to go that way because I'm going to go with another Michigan player, and I'm going to take Kenneth Grant. But I can easily see Colston Loveland go here as well. If you look at the Chargers, the way they're set up, they need a number one tight end. I think the acquisition of Tyler Conklin, though, gives them an opportunity to address the tight end situation a little bit later if they want to, because it's so deep. So they can get a tight end. You can pick up a Harold Fannin on day 3, because there's maybe day 2, because there's some talk about where he might go 3rd round, 4th round-ish. So, but you can get a tight end like that, and maybe he's in a year or 2, maybe he's a star. So Conklin gives you insurance. Now they can still pick Loveland, don't get me wrong. But this gives you insurance. Disley, their top free agent pickup last year, is a really nice player, mostly as a blocker, but nice player. And now you got Conklin, so you're okay there. If you need to wait until next year for a player to develop, you're fine. So I think that helps him out. But the other position they could use is definitely corner and running back. By the way, Henderson would also look really good here because they need a number 2. Hassan Haskins is not a number 2; he's a 3. Vidal is a really probably a 3 as well. So you need a guy that can be sort of like what happened with Harris in Pittsburgh. You need that other guy, and Henderson would be perfect. So I think Henderson would be a really good pickup here for the Chargers. But corner is also what the Chargers need. Dante Jackson is just a holdover. That's all he is. You're pretty good here. Okay. Pretty good here. But you really have to look at who's going to take over for Dante Jackson. But maybe Dante Jackson can hold the fort for a year. So you pick a corner a little bit later on. You don't necessarily need to get that guy in the first round, because anybody that you even pick up right now, as far as corners, are guys like Amos and Revel that are going to start. They're not going to be waiting. They got the talent to start. So I don't think the Chargers need to do that in the first round, which is why I will pass on that player or that position here. But yeah, I think it's Loveland or have them head, like I said, with Grant. Okay, so either way, Michigan player, big surprise, right? Okay, so next up, let's go to the Packers. And everybody has the Packers taking a wide receiver, even though they've never taken a receiver in the first round in like 20 years. So are they going to take a wide receiver? Well, no, I'm not going to have them take a wide receiver. I'm just getting this ready because I need to pronounce his name. There's several players that I have a hard time pronouncing their names, and I don't want to butcher them, because this particular player happens to be one of I've got about 5 or 6 that are considered like one of my favorite players in the draft. And this one is one of them. And I am so happy to hear that in the last several weeks, he's climbing up draft boards, because people were talking about him. And by the way, Ourlads has him as like a 3rd round guy, a second round guy or a 3rd round guy. Might be a 2nd round guy. Let me just double check to see where he lands before I mention his name. They have my boy here as a 2nd to 3rd round guy. Yeah, that's why he's not on my list as that 3rd, 4th round value guy. So but Ourlads believes he could be a 3rd round guy. And yet now there are people who believe he could sneak into the 1st round. And I don't think there's any question that that's possible. I mean, this kid to me is just another Hassan Reddick. I think that's what he's going to be. And I'm talking about Donovan Ezuraku. And that is the player. And I wonder if I have to go far. There, oh, he's right there. See, what did I say? Even Pro Football Focus has him ranked highly. Not that that means anything after what we've seen here so far. But this makes perfect sense to me because of the fact that the Packers need edge rushers. Do they need a receiver? Yes. Everybody knows they need a number one guy. But look, you have to, until a team does something that they've never done before in the draft, a regime, until they've done that, well, I'm not going to just say, oh, this is the year. I don't know. Why should I guess this is the year they're going to go number one? We're going to go first round wide receiver. That's not their MO, especially when they can just, again, take a guy in the second round. So I think they could do that, or a third round, fourth round. And again, there are players in this draft that could, end up pretty good. And just because you're a second, third, fourth round guy doesn't mean you can't be a star receiver. You can. We've seen it happen a lot. So I think the Packers might do that and stick with their plan, because take a look at this up front. First round, even at linebacker, this is what they value. Even on the offensive line. There's earlier rounds, second round, third round, fourth round, but defensive line is number one. Even Van Ness, first round, and he has not worked out, which is a reason why they need another edge rusher. But they like to go with this position early up front. And I could see them doing it with this particular player, because this player played several years with Jeff Hafley. So the defensive coordinator for the Packers, of course, comes from Boston College, groomed Ezuraku, helped him groom into the player he is today. So not only are you getting a player that you know, but you're getting a player who knows your system, what you want to do. It's going to make it easier for him to be a better pro, so he can maximize his potential, especially because he's not a big guy. That's the reason why he's the second to third round grade from Ourlads. He's not a big guy. But what compensates from that is he's got a really good reach, and he's got long arms. And I think that is what you are looking for. He's got a good tackle radius, basically. And because of that, that is what can compensate for the size that you do not have, like some of the other edge rushers in this class that are that most people believe are going to end up drafted ahead of you. Anyway, so there you go. That's the reason I'm going to go ahead and take Ezuraku. Now, let's go with the next one. We're starting to get to the end here, and we've got the Vikings and Minnesota. Well, I think Minnesota can go a few different ways. They can, based on who we have left, they can go with Campbell at linebacker. They could also go guard. We're starting to now get to the position where you might want to take a guard with the first pick. You could go edge. You could also go corner. Maybe Revel would be a nice pick. Or you can go based on, again, who's available here. You can go with Luther Burden. I think he would be a nice pickup as well for the Vikings, because even though the Vikings have their two wide receiver studs, their slot player is really wide open. That's why they added Rondell Moore. They want Rondell Moore to fill that spot. And by the way, that's why I don't have him take a wide receiver, because I think that if they just wait until the other rounds to take another slot guy, give that guy a chance, give Moore a chance. As I said before, you got two studs. Do you need a third? No. So I'm not taking receiver first round for the Vikings, but I do think it's something that eventually early in the draft they're going to take a look at. But the way we're going to go here, though, is going to be on defense, and it's going to be in the secondary, because Harrison Smith is on borrowed time at this point. And this kid, Emin Wari, is also been one of my favorite kids to watch since I looked at him a couple of months ago. I just couldn't believe what I was watching. I was like, because at that point he was not anywhere near the first round, and I looked at him. I'm like, man, this guy this kid's amazing. He's got the size. He's got the size, the speed, the physicality, the ball skills. I mean, this guy is a freak. And he is also a guy that is capable of being that hybrid type of guy that could be in the box, which is really where he excels. But he's also really good at being the guy who's the last line of defense. So I think he's a great talent. And the Vikings, and of course, when you have a defensive coordinator like Brian Flores, you are going to salivate at getting your hands on someone like that. All right, Houston's next. And I'm going to go ahead, and even though I could take Sanders at defensive tackle or Campbell at linebacker or even Travion Henderson at running back, I'm going to go ahead and say that what they really need is more talent along the offensive line. And I think this is a no-brainer. Howard has been a nice player, but, it's one of those situations now where I think if you look at Houston, even the last couple of years, Howard actually, I remember when he first got picked as a first-round guy, those first couple of years, the bust label was on Titus Howard. But then he kind of found a home, especially because he was able to play guard. And there was hey, this was working out. He needed a few years, and he's actually turned into a pretty good player. Well, Houston unloads and gives their star tackle away. And now they go out and they get Cam Robinson to fill the spot. Well, Cam Robinson he's just an average at best tackle. That's all he is, but he's not special. Okay. He's just never lived up to that hype. And they just, especially here, if you look at it with Robinson at tackle, even at the other tackle spot, Blake Fisher is a work in progress. Nobody knows if he's starting caliber. Yes, they added Trent Brown. I think that was a smart move. They added some of these other veterans. Again, smart moves. But what you don't see is a dude. You don't see a star. You don't see a number one guy. They got rid of that guy. They need another one. And that's the reason why when I look at my board, I say the guy that makes the most sense, where is he? Is right here. Josh Connerly. Okay, I think he's a really good. Oh, wait, that's Minnesota. How do I get rid of this? I forgot to do. Is that how you get rid of it? Let me see. No, that's probably going to show me something on him. How do I go back and get rid of him? No, that's not it. Let's see. I don't know. I don't know how you get rid of him. You'd think it would be easy to just draft a player. I want Minnesota. I don't know. They're not. I don't know. I can't do it. All right. Let's just go ahead and take Minnesota's guy here. So we'll switch it. Where's my guy, Emin? Come on. You got to be kidding me. Did I pass him? Oh, I had to have passed him, right? They have Henderson this far down? Dude, I passed him. Where is he? Dude, Pro Football Focus is lost, man. Are you kidding me? Wow. They do a good job, but this is insane. And I don't mean to do a good job at the draft. Pro Football Focus does a really good job for a variety of reasons. And it's very a really good, useful tool. Matter of fact, I like this. I like the draft simulator. Do a lot of good things. But they don't know scouting. That's not their thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and put the Rams on here. All right, let's see. Let me move this over here. I'm going to check this out. Okay. Who's next? Oh, my boy, Snead and the Rams. Yeah, I've been saying this for the past couple of years. I said it before last year. I said it 2 years ago. Les Snead is the best general manager in the NFL. And then he comes out last year and has a monster draft again. He is the man. So taking a look what the Rams need. They need, there's some talk about, do they draft a quarterback of the future? Do they get a Milroe or Dart, somebody, or if Sanders drops? I don't see why they would do that. You're trying to. This is a Super Bowl caliber team. That's what they want. They want to win a Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford's only going to be here a couple more years, and then he's going to start declining. You have to win now. A quarterback does not help you do that. And you have other needs. So I would be very surprised, especially because I don't believe Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe are first-round caliber players anyway. So why would you reach for a quarterback? I think that would be wrong. I don't think Snead will do that. So I think the one player, though, that I believe that they could go with, that I did not have them going with, is Loveland. I think Loveland, if he's still on the board, would be a really good pickup because eventually they've got to find Higbee's replacement. And you saw the drop-off without him. Campbell, linebacker, is another good play here. They could use it. They definitely need another inside linebacker, so he comes into play. But we're going to go ahead and go corner. And so our top guy, my top guy here, we got Amos and Rebel. So we're going to go with Amos for the Rams. Rams definitely need another young corner. I mean, Darius Williams is very inconsistent. Witherspoon is probably one of the top. I'm going to do a video at some point between now and the start of the season on like maybe the top 5 NFL bargain free agents. And Witherspoon is in that group because he doesn't make anything compared to the talent level he's become and how valuable he's become for the Rams secondary. But he's had an injury riddled career, and he's a little older now. So that's why the Rams need another corner. And I think they could probably go out and get that guy here in round 1. All right, now comes Baltimore. And Baltimore needs an edge rusher. We know that. They need a guard. We know that. So maybe Booker comes into play. Campbell can also come into play here. Jahad Campbell. Or maybe even Knight. I know we kept talking about Campbell, but now that we're getting further to the bottom of the first round, I think we can start talking about Demetrius Knight, Ourlads' top-rated linebacker. But I think now we're at a point because the next 3 players we're going to draft are all edge rushers. And this is another thing I did not point out at the beginning of the draft. I kind of did a little bit. There are going to be, because of the fact that, the talent level is so tough to diagnose between 5 and 25 or 30, that means 2 or 3 players are going to wind up lasting a lot longer than we think of. Who those players are, we never know. On my board, one of them might be Loveland because he could go somewhere maybe, in the top 15. And another one is actually going to be my next pick. But again, 3 edge rushers are going here. So it could be any of these 3. But I'm going to go with Baltimore and take Pierce. He's going to be my guy for the Ravens. And then with Detroit, I'm going to take Mike Green. And then with Washington, I'm going to take Scorton. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. There you go. So I'm going edge, and edge, and any of them can go probably in any order. I mean, there were particular reasons why I did with those particular teams. I think it can go in any way possible. So I think Green and even Scouten, both of them could easily go also in the top 20, top 15. They've got that type of talent. But they just happen to last a little bit longer in my particular mock draft. Okay. And then we only got a couple more to go here. We've got the Buffalo Bills come up, and the Bills there are a few things the Bills can do. I still think the Bills need to think about wide receiver. But again, on my mock, the 2 guys that I would look at are Egbuku and another guy that could go a little bit higher, who I did not take, or Burden. They're more suited for slot. Well, they're set at slot. Okay, so not that those guys. I mean, especially Burden, he can play outside a little bit. So he can play both actually, but both of those guys are more looking like slot guys. But you can't count on Keon Coleman as a number 1 guy. You just cannot. And Josh Palmer is just a guy. So they need, and Samuel also, by the way, is right behind Shakir in the slot. So that's why I did not go that route. But at some point early in the draft, the Bills have to go after another receiver. I think they have to give him more weapons. The other thing to keep an eye on is the whole James Cook deal. I mean, what if all of a sudden the Bills wind up drafting a running back in the middle rounds? Is that going to be a sign that they don't feel really good about what's going on with James Cook? Even though I think Ray Davis is a player that is going to do just fine as a complementary 1-2 piece to some, he could definitely be a 1-2 guy. Like for instance, if you have Ray Davis and Travion Henderson and those guys are your 1-2, you're fine. There's no 1-2 here. James Cook is the number one guy. But at some point, I think the way it looks, I think this is why James Cook wants his money, is I don't think the Bills are going to pay James Cook. Just same reason why I don't know if the Jets will pay Breece Hall. I think they might just say, look, it's too much money for a running back. Maybe that'll change by next year because it's starting to change now. It's after what Barkley did. But I don't know if the Bills are going to pay Cook. And so if that happens, I think Ray Davis eventually is going to need a partner. And so you might want to keep an eye on that at some point. But who knows? Maybe they'll get along. Okay, so I think Jack Sawyer could be a possibility. I think I want to, now that I'm down to, the next wave of edge rushers, because they do need another edge rusher. Joey Bosa cannot be counted on to stay healthy. So that is definitely something that they need to address. Epinesa is just at this point, a good player, not a great player. Russo is the guy that's really taken that next step, but they need another guy, another young edge rusher. So I mentioned Sawyer based on my mock. I also think Sanders could be a good fit here. They need someone to play alongside Daquan Jones and eventually be a long-term guy. And Revel, though, is actually, because if you take a look here at corner, there is no way Tre'Davious White. There is no way the Buffalo Bills are going into the season going, oh, we got Tre'Davious White back at corner. We're happy. No. At this stage of his career, there's been too many injuries. There's been just no. He is just now a top. He's really like just a rotational top five corner. That's all he is at this point. That's all you can look at him at this point. So they need to find another really top corner at Buffalo. And that is the reason why I am going to give them a corner and go with our boy from East Carolina, Siobhan Revel, who is a fantastic player. I mean, the ball skills, his size, he's got a lot to like. The injury is a big blow, but he'll be fine probably by September. That'll be a year from the ACL injury. He is a really good player. And if that injury is behind him and he never has to worry about it again, he will easily be one of the top corners of this draft class and one of the best players of the draft class. All right, Kansas City and Philadelphia, the two teams that made the Super Bowl. This one's pretty easy. Look, Kansas City can use an edge rusher, a corner, some linebacker help, definitely another defensive tackle. But it came down to me, believe it or not, one was on offense because he was still available, and that was Travion Henderson. Just imagine the Kansas City Chiefs with Travion Henderson. Wow. I don't want to see that. It's not why I did this, but we all know they've got to go offensive line. They absolutely have to. And so that is why I went offensive line and went with a player that is ridiculously still not here because they don't know what they're doing. Look, I just passed Henderson, for crying out loud. Oh, my Lord. 69. What a joke. Ursery, I'm a big fan of. Matter of fact, I think Ursery, I don't think there's any doubt he's got the talent to be, but he could end up being the best tackle in this class. That's the talent level Ursery has. So will he be? I don't know, probably not, but he has the talent to do it if it all comes through. And some of those other guys don't live up to, maybe some of them, the wards come back. Keep this in mind. As much as we say so many positive things about Membu and Banks and so forth and Campbell, remember, that's based on this year's draft class. If you put these offensive tackles with, say, last year's or the year before, so far, these guys, they drop. This is not considered a very strong offensive line class. It is not. But for this class, these guys, they have their own pecking order, like every year, and Ursery is in that pecking order. He's in that group. He really is. He's on the outside of he's on this side. Don't forget, remember when those four offensive tackles went early in that draft, whatever, 5 years ago, and Wirfs was 4? Well, he ended up first. So you never know who's going to end up first. And I think Ursery's got the talent to be. So I have to put Ursery there. But watch out for Travion Henderson with the Chiefs. It might be too good for Andy Reid to pass up. And then the Philadelphia Eagles are next. And I will not get out of the first round without putting Colston Loveland there. So didn't realize I was going to be getting – that play isn't in our playbook just yet. I don't know what that means. Anyway, so here's our draft. Obviously, this is switched, but everything else is there. That's how we're going to do it. And we will talk more about that in the coming days because, again, we're going to have our draft reaction on Sunday. And then at some point in the next couple of weeks, we are going to be talking about every team's draft. And I am going to start interviewing my insiders again because I do a draft preview interview with our insiders, a draft recap interview with our insiders, and a season preview with our insiders. So I get them 3 times a year, and then sometimes I try to get them on during the season or for other things. But that's the one other time we're going to talk to them. We're going to talk to them after the draft, and I'm going to find out what each specific team did and what was the story behind those picks and the staff and fan reaction. So look out for that. And that's why you want to subscribe to Ourlads and definitely hit the notification bell because the notification bell gives you the reminder, especially when we do live broadcasts that, hey, I didn't know a live broadcast was happening. Oh, I just got an email telling me to look out because in a couple hours, Ourlads has a live show. So that's the reason to check that out. Okay. By the way, the other players I was considering for Philadelphia, I was considering Sanders at defensive tackle, and I was also thinking about an offensive lineman. All right. So I can get rid of some of this stuff because we still have a few things to do. And let's now talk about value. All right. So I'm just going to just quickly go over players that I believe should be considered top value players that if it's your team and you get these guys, I think you're going to be really happy based on where you got them. And again, remember, if they're in the draft guide, you look at the player, then it says where he's from, and then the projected round. And I'm only talking about guys that Ourlads projects 3rd round to 4th round, and then 4th to 5th and so on. Okay. Quarterback. Well, this is easy. Will Howard. All right. So Will Howard is actually one of my favorite value picks in the entire draft. Will Howard, I believe, when it's all said and done, will be the top quarterback of this class. All right. So Will Howard. The other 4, the top 5, you got McCord, Seth Hennigan, Gabriel, and Brosmer. So those are my top 5 value quarterbacks. I'm a big Seth Hennigan fan. He made me look really smart in the Senior Bowl, and he's starting to gain traction now. I mean, you just take a look at Seth Hennigan's career. This kid has got tremendous amount of production since he was a freshman starter at Memphis, which hasn't happened a lot. And he's just a lot to like. I like the fact that he can move out of the pocket if he needs to. He makes a lot. I mean, he's had a very nice career. And so I really like Hennigan, but Howard's my top guy. And then 2 guys who will probably get signed after the draft that I like are Mertz and Garbers. I really like Mertz because when I look at the film on Mertz, man, he makes a lot of good plays on the run. I love the way that he gets out of the pocket and can throw on the run accurately. Man, there's a lot I like about Mertz. And I never thought I'd say that. I used to knock the hell out of him at Wisconsin those first few years because everybody would tell me how great Graham Mertz was going to be this year. And then Wisconsin, the season would start. And I'm like, I'm not seeing it. What are you talking about? And then eventually it just didn't work. And he goes to Florida. And then his first year at Florida, Man, he had a great first year. He had a tremendous completion percentage, highly accurate. Not big numbers. He's not throwing 50 touchdowns or anything, but this was what you were talking about. And then he gets hurt last year, and that's a big blow. But I keep an eye on Mertz. I think Mertz is a player you want to be keeping an eye on. I also think Ethan Garbers has a career as a backup in the NFL. Running backs, I really love Ollie Gordon because he's a third or fourth round grade. Ollie Gordon had the DUI, whatever it was, issued just before the season last year. And Oklahoma State did not have a good season. He did not look good early on. It wasn't until late in the season that he started to catch it. But I think people forget just how good he was a couple years ago. He was a monster a couple years ago. And I think he is still that same player. And now he's in the NFL. And I think he's going to be a awesome talent at running back to keep an eye on. I also like Devin Neal, a couple other guys, RJ Harvey, DJ Giddens, Brashard Smith, the converted receiver at running back for SMU. I'm a big Kyle Monangai fan at Rutgers. This kid is a tough kid. He's not big, but he is tough. And I'm sorry, but he is just a player that will make it at the next level. Definitely. Because Corum was drafted in the early to middle rounds for the Rams. And I think Monangai is just as good as Corum. I really do. Corum has more pep on his step. He can make and he's really physical too, but he's also on the small side. But I think Monangai, I think if you could draft Corum in the fourth round, I think you can draft Monangai. That's how talented I think he is. He won't get drafted in the fourth round, but that's the way I think. Taj Brooks just has way too much production at Texas Tech to be considered somebody that will not get drafted or late in the draft. I think he's a good value. Mario Anderson from Memphis, Donovan Edwards from Michigan. Man, look, I never thought he was going to take that next step when Corum left and it was Donovan Edwards' team. That's not Donovan Edwards. He's not a guy that is going to be your number one running back, but he is going to find a spot on a team where they're going to have a number one running back that'll be like Corum, a physical guy. And then they're going to ask Edwards to come in like he did at Michigan and get, maybe 10 touches a game, 10 to 12 touches a game. And he's going to look more like that guy we saw a couple of years ago than last year, which was nothing because he's not the guy. And he didn't have a guy like Blake Corum leading him. So I think Edwards is going to be just fine. He's just too explosive. He's had too much production in big games. So I think wherever he lands, look, I shouldn't say that because he has to land at the right spot. He's got to land at that perfect spot where he can be that guy I just talked about. I also like Montrell Johnson. And then other guys to keep an eye on are Bernard, Tootin, Hunter, Marks, and LaQuint Allen. At wide receiver, Trey Harris is my favorite. He's the Ole Miss kid. Matter of fact, Watkins is also in this group, as is Restrepo, Felton, Kobe Hudson, Nick Nash, the converted San Jose State quarterback. I remember looking at him at quarterback, and he would get some reps, whatever it was, 3 years ago. And I was like, wow, okay, I can see what they're doing. Okay, this is going to be that next guy. And then all of a sudden, like the next year or something, I was checking out San Jose, and he's playing wide receiver. So what the hell happened? And then last year, man, he just exploded. He's got too many good gifts when it comes to the size you're looking for, red zone target. Yes, I think he's definitely going to make it in the NFL as I don't know where, but I can definitely see him landing somewhere and being a top 3 type of guy. Then you got Ja'Cory Brooks from Louisville, Pat Bryant, Daniel Jackson, Rock Taylor. You notice Memphis, Hennigan, Anderson, and Taylor. Like them all. And then Ricky White, UNLV, who, by the way, very slow 40 at the combine, made up for it with a much better 40 on pro day. So just keep that in mind. Allie Jennings is also in this group. I think he's just too much of a playmaker to not think that he might be able to find a home somewhere on a depth chart, especially in the return game. And other guys to keep an eye on, Franklin, who's been around for a long time, last year with Illinois. Meeks, Jamal Pritchett, Shepard, and Wester. Tight end, this is easy. Fannin, he's definitely number one. I still think he's probably going to go around third or fourth round, but I think you're going to get a bargain there. Ferguson, Brennan Stahl, Joshua Simon is my top sleeper at tight end, the kid from South Carolina. Then you got Prescorn and Aradse Gadsden the second. I also think Bartholomew is somebody to keep an eye on. And Keithy, the tight end from Utah, if it wasn't for the injuries, this kid would be he'd be somewhere in the top 3 to 4 rounds. But the injuries have just killed him. He's also a little bit older. But if he can stay healthy, he might be able to latch on at some point and play in the NFL for a while. Jake Majors, really like this kid at center as a third round type of grade, as a nice sleeper. Latch on somewhere, be a career starter. Same thing with Jared Wilson from Georgia. I also like Jacob Bear, the kid from Arkansas State. Fatanu, the kid from Arizona State, and Monheim. Others to keep an eye on: Cox, McLaughlin, Mays, and Michalski. At guard, I really like Luke Condra from Cincinnati. Also like Jackson Slater and Nash Jones. And then a few others: West Washington, the kid from Florida State, and Colby from Iowa. Offensive tackle, you've got Cornelius at the top of the list. I think he definitely has a long-time starting ability. And then there's two guys at offensive tackle that I believe might be my two of my top sleepers overall. One is from Rutgers, and that's Holland Pierce. The fact that this guy is considered by everybody to be a 4th, 5th round guy, I was shocked. I have watched this kid play from day one. I've watched him every game. He is a monster. Once again, you're scouting reports, and you're gonna dissect these guys and left and right. But this kid, all I know is what I've seen with my own eyes for the last 3 years. And this guy has gone up against the best edge rushers in the Big Ten, which, by the way, has won back-to-back championships. Okay. Playing Ohio State, Michigan, and all those top teams, especially those two. He has never looked out of place. Never looked like, he's a step slow. That guy's too fast for him. Too many penalties. Too many this or that. I'm telling you right now, and I think you'll see it maybe depending on where he lands. Obviously, you want to land with the right coaching staff and so forth. But I think no matter where he lands, he'll have a nice career in the NFL. But if he lands with the right team and the right coach, he could be an all-pro, and I'm not even sweating to think about that. So if you're looking for a bargain in the middle rounds at offensive tackle, a very important position, look no further than Holland Pierce. And another guy who is not even in the guide. Not in the guide, okay? So this is a guy that is outside the guide. And I was able to find out about him. I think I found out about him. I don't think it was last year. I think it was it was last year, because that's when BYU had the big run and so forth. And I was able to interview Jake Hatch. And Jake, I'm telling you, Jake is an excellent interview. Jake is a guy that I think has a great career as an analyst, especially with this BYU. He's the host of Locked On Cougars. He's really knowledgeable. And he told me, gave me a little rundown on I was asking him, why is BYU? Why are they as good as they are? What is so special about them? And he went over some of the reasons why they were where they were. And one of the guys he told me about was Caleb Etienne, tackle. And ever since then, I started to pay attention to him. And I really, really see what he was talking about. And I think he feels with the way I feel with Pierce, with the way he feels with Etienne. And I like him as well. Caleb Etienne is a guy that I think can be a starting tackle, and a good starting tackle in the NFL. So keep an eye on him. And also Logan Brown and Xavier Truss. I also would keep an eye on Lunt. Scott from Army. You got to get an Army offensive lineman in. You have to. They had the best offensive line they've ever had. One of these guys has got to make it. And I'm going to go with Scott. And you have Tiger Shanks from UNLV and Dalton Cooper. All right, defensively, defensive tackle, I really like Anis Peebles. I think if you're looking for a smallish interior penetrator, Peebles is the guy. Also, Darius Alexander. Boy, did he have a good week at the Senior Bowl. Then you got Mills, another Rutgers kid, Keontae Hamilton. Robinson from Nebraska. Matter of fact, two guys I'd even keep an eye on. Hutmacher as well. Phillips from Maryland. Carpenter and West, both from Indiana. West is graded higher than Carpenter, but I like Carpenter better. But both of them. Bleedy from Auburn and Simeon Barrow from Miami. I also think these guys, because again, remember, this is a deep tight end class, defensive tackle class. Tafuna, Huntington, I mentioned Hutmacher, Van, Ritzy, O'Malley, Jenkins, and Pointer. At edge, this is one of my favorite sleepers of the entire draft, and that is Oladejo Oluwafemi. And this is the kid from UCLA. And I remember I was looking for Schlesinger tape. And then I saw this kid. And I'm like, where'd this guy come from? And he was playing linebacker and they switched him to edge. And when that happened, all of a sudden, this kid just took off. And then I started watching his tape and I'm like, this kid's really good. I love this kid. So, and then he played really well in the All-Star game. So I don't know why he's considered back here. I mean, again, you can take a look at the scouting reports and there are reasons. Okay. He's just a first year edge guy. So there are things he's got to work on, which is probably why he's considered where he is. And I'm not saying he shouldn't be there. All I'm saying is go get him. That's all I'm saying is go get him. Also, Ashton Gelati from Louisville and Colin Oliver. And it's interesting. You got Colin Oliver and Ollie Gordon, and they both really broke out at the same time at Oklahoma State a few years ago. And they just both were like these, especially Oliver. Man, he broke out as a freshman and was sacking everybody. And it's like, wow, this guy's going to have a great career. So I see this happen a lot, though. And then you start, it's sort of like Travion Henderson. You have this great freshman year, and then all of a sudden, things kind of, they don't ever get to that peak again. But, man, I think he's just too talented. I don't think he's going away. I think when a team decides, because Oklahoma State put him at linebacker, they kept him moving around from edge to linebacker, and I just think if he just sticks maybe just to edge rushing, I think he could do really, really well. Kennard, David Walker, Elijah Roberts, Joyner, Powell Ryland, Fidel Diggs, and Batty, another BYU guy. And Fidel Diggs, man, he's got good size. I loved what I saw out of him last year at Syracuse. And I think he could, and I've seen him play big in big games. I think there's something there. I really do with Diggs. You can see the warts. You understand that. But there's so much potential there with Diggs. Also like Hassanin, Coleman, Davis, that's the kid from Wake, and Walker Jr. And then let's get to linebacker. You got Bossa from Oregon. Chandler Martin, another Memphis kid. I'm going defense. I really like Chandler Martin a lot. He's one of my favorites. Then you have Kiko Mauianoa from Miami. Jackson Woodard. I like him a lot too at UNLV. I also like Jalen Walker a lot at Indiana. I think if he fits in the right system, I mean, he's a guy that could be a hybrid type. Higgins, Dolak, Asante, Bruner, and Combs. And then other guys to keep an eye on. You got Jones from Baylor, Pace, Powell, another Rutgers kid, Jackson, McLeod, Mondin. And then we wrap it up in the secondary for the sleepers, value guys, whatever you want to call them. Where do I have it? I have them here somewhere. And by the way, don't forget, we still have a few more things to do before we wrap up here that you want to hold on for. Here it is. Oh, let's start off the secondary with another one of my top like 5 or 6 value players in the entire draft, and that's Kobe Bryant, the corner from Kansas. Love the kid, playmaker type. I think look, again, the warts are there, but I think he is going to be a really good player, really good corner. I think he could be a shutdown corner, or at least be a sort of like a Diggs type from Dallas, sort of like one of those guys that can not necessarily be a shutdown guy, but a guy that can nonetheless make big plays for you and change games for you. And that's what I see there. I see like a Diggs type. Okay. You also have Riley, Burke, Harris from Iowa, Dotson, who's a Kobe Bryant's partner at Kansas, Muhammad, Longer Beam, Wally. Other guys I like, you got this kid White, Jalen Smith, Mike Smith, Edwards, the kid from Tulane, Hill from Nebraska, Spence, and Huzzy. The kid White from NC State, something I like about him, and I might be completely wrong, but I kind of like that kid. And at safety, another one of my top favorite players. First, you got Hunter Waller from Wisconsin, which I think is going to be a really good pro. But I really like Shamari Simmons from Arizona State. I mean, this kid is a playmaker. And boy, did he come on in big games last year at the end of the season, the playoffs. And this kid is not – some people think he might not even be drafted. I think you're going to get a bargain. This guy is a starter. This guy is going to make plays. This guy is definitely a sleeper. Billy Bowman, Malachi Moore, Reed from Penn State, Burns from LSU, Ransaw, Woodson, Jackson, Sanders. I'm also high on Shiloh Sanders. I really like him. I love that kid. Boy, I loved his so physical for a guy his size. He can play out, deep, short, in box. Sanker, Mickens, Barron from Syracuse. That's another deep sleeper I like. Lane from Navy, and Hook. Also, keep an eye on Vernon, Burks, Silman Craig, Page, who can also play nickel corner. He came from Michigan. And CJ Taylor. Okay. Now, the value players, I told you about Ezra Raku. These are the guys that were not in the top part, but you've got Ezra Raku, you got Travion Henderson, you've got Elik Ayumanor, who Dave Syverson interviewed. That's on this website. You can check it out. That was a couple months ago, right around time of the All-Star games. Tate Ratledge, the guard from Georgia, Jack Sawyer, JT from Ohio State, because I don't want to butcher his name. I think he's going to have a really good pro career. And Josiah Stewart from Michigan. Ben Morrison, I think there's been a lot of chipping on him in the last year, especially after the injury. But sort of like Will Johnson, I think Ben Morrison is going to have a long and highly productive NFL career. Also, Watts, his partner at Notre Dame, along with Kevin Winston, who was hurt all last year for Penn State, and Sebastian Castro. Okay, now, as we wrap up, what we want to do is also remind you not only to get the Ourlads draft guide, and once again, if you don't want to wait for it, you can get the PDF right now, and you'll have it for you as the draft gets underway in just minutes. So hopefully we've helped you to preoccupy yourself as we get closer and closer to the draft. All right, now, before a couple other things. I did place a bet, a couple of bets on the draft, and I'm going to show you some of the odds right now. Now, see if they've changed much since we've been on here for over an hour. So let me see. Let's check it out. So let me see. I have to reload this just in case. All right. So there you go. There's the pick. We don't really care about that one. What else do we got? Number 2, we don't care. Number 3. So let's go starting at number 4. All right. So Will Campbell. All right. That makes sense. Let's go to 5. All right. See, Ashton Genty right now is the pick for Jacksonville, according to DraftKings, according to Las Vegas. Mason Graham second. We went with McMillan. All right. So that would be 6-1. And then we have the Raiders. Banks is the guy now. Wow. Where did Banks come from? But there's our guy, Membu. Look at that. Banks coming ahead of Membu now. That could be interesting. There's Genty, not that far behind. The Jets. Ooh, Warren is slightly ahead of Membu. Again, if Membu does not get taken by the Raiders, I think the Jets are going to take him. But, hey, I don't care. And I wouldn't be upset if they took Banks either. I think it's tackle, defensive tackle, or tight end. I'll go either any of those. Then we got Carolina. Wow. See, Jalen Walker is probably the most polarizing player for us in the entire draft because some people believe he's a top 10 pick and others believe that he could be in the 20s. And we have, who do we have going to Carolina? That's right. This would be there we go. It's 35-1 on Shamar Stewart. So it doesn't look like we're going to be right on that one. But, Michael Williams is another player along those lines. And he's considered the third choice, another defensive lineman. And the Saints. Well, apparently, Shedeur Sanders is not considered the guy. He's 20-1 to go to the Saints, which makes them very smart. But they've got defensive line. Yeah, I don't know. Look, Jackson Dart. So instead of Sanders, Jackson Dart at 9, they would be absolutely off their rocker. Absolutely crazy. Where's our guy? Will Johnson, 40-1. I guess that's not going to happen, but imagine if it did. And then number 10, the Bears. Well, Genty's at 12-1. We'll see if he can make it that far, but they don't believe that that's going to be the case. All right. And anyway, we did. We actually got lucky because there's one in here for draft position. And we made this play a couple of days ago with Walter Nolan. Let's see. No, this is not it. Let's see. I thought it was in here because we're looking at exactly where you would pick them. Draft position, top 5, exact top 5. Nope, it's top 10. I think that's it. We had Walter Nolan. And Nolan is now almost 5-1. Well, 2 days ago, we got Walter Nolan at 20-1 to go in the top 10. And look, in our mock, we have him at 11. So I hope I'm wrong because I got 20-1 on Walter Nolan. All right. So anyway, that's the kind of fun you can have with the draft if you want to place a few bets on these at this point in time. So check it out. And let's see. Before we end the show, let's see what's going on. Where are we? Are we home? Let's see. What is this? What's happening? I don't want to know what's happening. I want to. Let's see here. No, maybe we get this off of here and I'll have to do it this way. Yeah, they won't let me do it on there. All right, so let's see. I'm going to put in NFL draft rumors. Okay, let's see what's going on before we call this a night. Let's see. Latest rumors I've been told and what I actually believe. Austin Genty to the Jags. Wow. Final mock draft. Colts going up one place to guarantee Warren. Do they have it, Warren? To guarantee Warren. Oh, Tyler Warren. What am I talking about? Why would they have to go up one to guarantee Warren? CJP. Let's see. Do we have any? Let me see if we have any like insiders. No insiders here. You think that these insiders would be all over the place. NFL draft rumors. Eagles could pick Will Howard in first round. Well, that sounds like the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. But, the thing is that ridiculous things happen all the time in the draft. And that is what makes it so much fun. Fielding calls the teams to trade up. I mean, if you're a team, and look at this, Jets are now being linked to Jahdae Barron. Why? How many corners would you want? The Jets have one of the best nickel corners in football, which is really what Jahdae Barron would be. So what are you doing there? Yeah, Jet fans would freak if they drafted a corner and didn't go tight end, defensive tackle, edge, offensive tackle. If they went cornerback, they would freak. Yeah, I can't believe that. I think that's fodder. It makes no sense. All right. I'm not seeing any of the top dogs in here. Let's see. Latest. New York Post. Rumors are percolating the Bears will select Ashton Jeanty. Ooh, that's a big shocker. Breece Hall fuels trade buzz. Post a cryptic fingers crossed emoji as trade rumors heat up. What does this have to do with anything, considering that Aaron Rodgers did not run the football the way he should have, because he had control of the offense, and he was coming off his injury season. This is what happens the first year you're back from your big injury. You don't have the big year. It's the second year. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, you do have Braylon Allen behind you. So if you want to go ahead and you think that you can, again, I said they have 3 running backs. So if you want to go with 2 and get something, a really high pick for for Breece Hall, I guess you could do that. Yeah, Breece Hall cryptic message. I try to stay off of this stuff at this point. Made available. Breece Hall. George Pickens trade rumors. Yeah, they're all heating up now, baby. All the trade rumors are heating up. All right, that's going to wrap it up. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I did the best possible to get you guys ready for the draft. There's a lot going on out there. But we are going to be back on Sunday to recap the draft. We're going to do a live show. So check that out. Again, we're going to be on at 2:00 Eastern. Hayden, Russell, and I. It's just Hayden and I. So we're definitely going to let us know what you think as we go through the draft. And I have a co-host. It'd be a lot easier for me to check out what is being said regarding the message boards. So we'll look for any of you guys to stick with us and let us know what's on your mind as we do instant reaction to the NFL draft at 2:00 on Sunday. And then again, just look at for Ourlads for the next several weeks. We're going to do we're going to get all 32 teams analyzed, all sorts of information, recaps, insiders telling us what's going on with their respective teams. And then, of course, the scouting side of things, John Cooper, Dave Syvertson, everybody is going to contribute over the next few weeks. So you want to be here at ourlads.com. You can, of course, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that. Like and share. All that stuff's great. And thanks for tuning in. So I'm going to go ahead and get something to eat so I can get ready for the draft. And thanks once again for joining me here. And we'll look forward to doing this a lot more because we are going to be putting together more weekly shows like a signature show that every week on this day or around this time, you can check us out. It'll be a live show, and we can interact with you during in the summer months leading up to the draft. So look out for that. And again, we appreciate your time as always here as viewers of Ourlads, and we'll see you soon. So enjoy the draft, everybody. Have fun, and we'll see you next time.